Peace, Shay Sienna. How you been? Peace to the world. I hope I can be heard. Happy new moon, everybody. Happy Diwali, per usual. We'll give it a couple minutes here to see if we. So you ready for your 2026 reading? Right on. I'm out here. Just holler at me when you're ready. But what it holds for the Gemini from Detroit. All right. Much to discuss. Gonna try to be concise so we can get it in here so I can get to the other things I got to do today. I got a 2026. I have a 2026 reading on online. So if that's what you're looking for, that specific service is available. I mean, but I got, birth chart readings, transit readings, but if you get a 2026 reading, it's an overview of the entire year. Transit readings are more I think they are more specific to a certain period of time. So it's more focused on around about a 3 month window. Since you brought that up, since we talking about readings, I'll announce it now and I'll say it again. I now have health and wellness readings available on my site, 720astrology.com. And you can go and check out the description. You have to be very careful how we word things in this day and time. But it is a very empowering reading because it gives you insight into the nature and structure of your human vessel. And it can help you understand if something has come up, what might have triggered it. It can give you insight into what type of support your system may need to help it restore its balance. It's a lot. That crazy in the house piece. So yeah, okay. So let's get going. Let's get going. So today is a powerful day. There are a lot of things that are hitting the day, and I want to start with we'll call it the astrological current events. Some are collective and some are personal for me. So today is October 21st. The new moon actually occurred at 7:23 a.m. Central Standard Time. And this new moon gave us a three-body stellium with the sun and the moon in Libra and the ruler of Libra in its domicile or one of its domiciles, Venus in Libra. So a very potent new moon. But it also happens to be Diwali. Peace, Danny. Peace, Akana. Um, Diwali is today. And if you don't know what Diwali is, it's a Hindu veneration festival and it venerates the goddess Lakshmi. And I think it's important to tap into this energy because Lakshmi is an energy of flow, of abundance, of plenty. It is an energy of maternal, life giving color spectrum. On Diwali, you set out all the colors, the rainbow comes out, and you light up your house. Uh, we may, I don't know, we may do it tonight. Like you open up your windows and this fall crisp air, you allow that fall crisp air to permeate your house. Um, and what you are doing, because my mother, now my mother is living with us, so she's seeing all the strange things we do, and she's asking, so what do you do? I said, well, it's nothing so much that you have to do, it's a state of mind that you put yourself in. And I was explaining to her that statues and pictures and images of gods and goddesses are not for you to worship them. They are to represent focal points for energy that resides within you to be externalized, focalized, so you can have an image for it to have a deeper ingraining in your subconscious mind. You're bringing it out to pull it back in, if that makes sense. When you the statues, all this stuff I got up in the back of me and all that, that's it's symbolism. It's the language of symbolism. And also today, we want to lift up the goddess Seshet, because Seshet is she who is foremost in the house of books. And so she is the eternal record keeper. Now, Libra in Spanish, the word for books is Libra. And so I tied that in with her being foremost in the house of books, that she ties in with this energy of this new moon. Mut, or also pronounced Ma'at, also ties into this energy because Ma'at is definitely associated with the energy of Libra. She is the vulture, and the vulture helps to balance the scales because just as much as life is a reality, death is a reality too. And the vulture comes and helps balance the scales when death has occurred because the vulture swoops down and cleans up the carcass. And when the vulture eats the carcass, it vomits on itself, on its legs, and in its vomit is contained antibacterial properties. The vulture also knows how to fly without using a lot of effort. It balances itself on the wind current. And the vulture also ties into the scripture in Malachi that says has healing wings. The that Malachi 4:2, healing in his wings. The Son of Righteousness, SUN. Um, so all these things tie in. So I feel like this moment we're in right now is encapsulating the energies of Lakshmi, the energies of Ma'at, the energy of Seshet. Okay. Um, Today I also want to acknowledge a woman whose today it would have been her birthday. Her name was Jerry Gertrude Harkin. I met this lady. Well, I didn't. She contacted me in 2023 while I was visiting my mother. We were up in North Carolina. This lady knew that her time on earth was short. She was around 80, I think she was 84 at the time. She was moving into hospice. She contacted me, she found me online, and she said she had been searching for someone that she thought would appreciate her library. She had a serious astrological, metaphysical, quasi new age library. And so she contacted me. We ended up speaking on the phone. I found out that she lived in Wisconsin, and I was so eager to get the books, I was going to drive up to Wisconsin and get them. And my mother and my wife cautioned against that. Um, so it ended up working out to where her son managed to send me the books through UPS or something to my house. When we got back to North Carolina, I had like 5 or 6 big boxes sitting in my um, walkway. And so there's something special about this because her day of birth, October 21st, is when the sun is at 28 degrees of Libra, where the sun is today, where the new moon is at 28 degrees of Libra. And that falls in my 10th house of career. And so here's something that comes out of the blue, and it is something that is supporting my continued journey, not just astrologically as a career pursuit, but as a soul pursuit, because you don't study astrology, at least you shouldn't, to just form a career. Astrology is a tool to help you know yourself and deep to have a deeper ponderance of that great question. What is the purpose of all of this? What is the meaning of all of this? Who am I? Why am I? It just so happens too that the north node in my chart is at 28 degrees of Libra. So that's why I said there's collectively, this is an important day. Individually, personally, for me, it's a very important moment in time. So I want to make sure that I give her just due today. And you know what's interesting and this is it's kind of sad. It gives you I read into things, follow context clues. And when I read her obituary, I got it pulled up here. It says, where is that at? Uh, Few tribute book. I want to read the obituary. Jerry Gertrude Parkin, 84, went to be with her loving husband Wallace on August 6, 2023, in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. I'm going to skip down. Jerry was an excellent quilter and seamstress, making many lottie. Damn, I can't read this print. It's so small. She loved animals, especially cats, and was a founding member of the Humane Society in somewhere in Kentucky. She was also a very gracious gift giver, putting a lot of love and thought into everything she chose. Okay, the point I'm making here is that I knew when I read this, although this seems like a nice obituary, I knew when I read it why she was reaching out to find someone to receive her library, because there's no mention in there that she was a master astrologist. And how do I know she was a master? Because I got her to receive someone's effects or to bequeath something. One of the most precious things to bequeath is someone's note. We always want money, we want houses and real estate and all, and I get that. But if you can get somebody's notes, like I got my grandmother's, Peace Pandora, I got some of my grandmother's notes, I got some of my father's notes and his books, and you get to see what they're writing and sticky notes. That is priceless because that's a time machine. You get to see inside that person's mind because you get to see what they were pursuing, you know? And so this lady had email correspondences where she's talking to other astrologists, and they're dealing with heavy stuff, things that I don't even work with yet. I don't do primary direction. Um, I don't do solar arcs. I mean, and she told me, she said, you're never gonna learn all this stuff. You're never gonna get on top of all of it. But you can see that until the day she left this earth, she was still curious and still trying to learn. And so that was very inspiring. The thing is, with this great skill, that was not mentioned in her obituary. So that's why she was looking for someone to receive her books, because this is my deductive reasoning. Nobody really valued that in her family. But verse so had it that that was supposed to fall into my lap. So now, with that out the way, I want to go into our conversation today about this new moon, and it's um I try to think. I had so many titles I wanted to give this. I wanted to call this Love, Leisure, Learning. I wanted to call this What is Love? But I just finally just said, I'm just going to call this the Love Lecture. Because we're going to kind of go a little kind of like how I used to do things with my little lectures I used to do, but I'm going to do it here through Zoom instead of having my whiteboard. But I'm looking down at my phone because I took a picture of my whiteboard. I wrote all my stuff out on the whiteboard to organize my thoughts, and I was going to do it like that. But I said I'll just take a picture of it and so I can have my little trigger notes. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to go down into exploring the energy of Venus. Y'all all right with that? I know you may be here to say, well, I want to know, what does the new moon hold, and what's squaring what and what's what, but there's so many other brilliant people online who can give it to you that way. I figure I'm gonna do it in Jamal fashion, and let's see where it takes us. We're gonna go to the whiteboard immediately. Okay. As I announced when I first came on, for those who just getting on, we're now 2026 forecast reading is now available on my website, 720astrology.com. I also now am offering health and wellness readings to help you understand the nature of your vessel, how to maximize the chart configuration that you were born with as it relates to your health and wellness. If you had things that have come up, to understand what might have triggered them, to understand what type of micronutrients you may be in more need of to help you sustain your vessel. So all of that is over on 720astrology.com. Venus is also known as Aphrodite. Why are we talking about Venus? Because she is the ruler of this new moon, and she's in her domicile. She's in Libra. So that's why she's the focal point. 1111. Okay. So let me see here. Where do we want to go? And we know she's referred to as the goddess of love, right? Now, the way my mind works, this is why I was going to first title this, What is Love? Because we got to go and let's look at the word love. I know we have thoughts of what that word means, right? But let's just look at it from a um that crazy. Holla at me. Um, let's probe this word. So from an Indo-European encasement, etymologically, the word love is traced back to two root families. One is called lice, and one is called lube. Now, the way I approach etymology is from a symbolic, mainly standpoint. I incorporate phonetics, and when we incorporate phonetics, what we're doing is what's called bird language. And that is allowing the symbolism to speak through and to not be overly scholastic about our approach to these words. Anthropology is a great system of study. It's also very crippling. I used to go to one of these, what do you call those shops? Um, one of those metaphysical shops, and there was this guy there who had been in school for anthropology for 10,000 years. And you have a conversation. He's one of these guys who's got to always um, beat you down with his scholastic prowess, right? And Everything's got to be, well, we've got to research and dig this, and it's cool in one way, but some things you just know that fat meat is greasy. You don't need to have scientists to come in and say, well, we got to test the lipid ratios. Fat meat is greasy, right? You don't need for scientists to always validate. And the world of the occult, esoteric, and metaphysical is always ahead of scientific validation. What do you think quantum physics is validating now? Is validating what all so-called pagan magical systems were already aware of, that we are intimately connected and living and imbued with spirit. But now quantum physics makes it palatable because we can speak of these things in more scientific jargon and it's acceptable, right? So I like to dance between two worlds. I like to bring in a little bit of scholastic, but also I'm going to fold in my own, take scholastic liberty, right? So I'm giving all these disclaimers before we go. So this word lice or this family is defined as track, footprint. These are some key words to help define this root family. Desire, um, furrow. That's in one regard, some of these things don't seem to line up. Now, track and footprint, I can see those. And I only can see them through thinking creatively. Desire does not seem to line up with track and footprint, nor does it seem to align with the word furrow. So you have to allow your right brain to kick in to try to figure out, well, how can they connect? Well, desire is being drawn to something. And desire basically speaks to a star. Sire means star. Okay. Desire. So it's a light, some type of light that's pulling you or drawing you. Well, footprint is something that we would use for tracking purposes. And if there's a track or a footprint, it suggests that something has already gone beforehand. And the second person is just finding said footprints or track and following those to some type of destination. Desire denotes a destination. You're being drawn to something. Footprint denotes a destination. You're following something to get somewhere. A track denotes a destination. Furrow. When I think of furrow, I think of almost digging. Real time. Let's go. Let me look up the word furrow. Furrow. Oh, a long, narrow trench made in the ground by a plow. Yeah, digging, especially for planting seeds. So again, a furrow could almost be considered a track, something that has been carved out so that something can be done. It's something that has been prepared. Now, I'm going to jump ahead of myself here because I feel like we need to. When you go read in the Old Testament, the story of the different accounts of Adam and Eve, there's a part it says, and he knew her. Now, we often associate that with them cohabitating. He knew her, they had sex, but we can't um, ignore that it's the word know, as in knowledge. Now, in the Gnostic texts, Eve is referred to as the teacher. She is not diminished like it is in the Judeo Christian paradigm. In Gnosticism, she is uplifted because she's the teacher. But a clue is given in the Old Testament because it says he knew her, as in she represents the knowledge, which would align with the Gnostic text saying that she's the teacher. And then you got to also add in the fact that the story is not necessarily saying about a gender story, but that's a whole nother level. So let's deal with that at where it appears to be a gender story. She's the teacher, and through having sex with her, he gains knowledge. He commingles his energy with hers. So here we have Venus, Aphrodite, the goddess of love, and the word love denotes a track, a footprint, a desire, a furrow. So what does a teacher do? A teacher leaves breadcrumbs. Um, so if she's the teacher and what she represents as love coincides with laying out breadcrumbs or footprints or a track or a furrow or being a magnet, desire, something's drawing you. So you're being drawn to something. While you're being drawn to something, there's also something drawing you, magnetizing. Well, Venus also is associated with copper, and copper acts like a magnet in a circuit. It pulls the energies together. It is a conductor. So what we're seeing now, we're digging and we're getting through the etymology and incorporating a little creative uh, comprehension. We're getting maybe a little more butter from the duck. Now, this root word lice also gives us the word leisure. Leisure comes from the same family. And guess what other word comes from the same family? Learn. So here's another clue that from the same family, we get love, leisure, and learn. So we even got to recontextualize our idea of what leisure is. We think leisure is laying at the beach. Leisure is the affordability for learning. Love is to learn. To learn is to have leisure. So they overlap each other. Okay. Hope I'm making sense. Okay. Next thing here I want to point out when we look at, oh, you know what? I made a mistake. Lube, desire is lube. So look, these right here all apply to lice. Desire applies to the other root word for love, lube. But they all still, everything I said still correlates. It all lines up. Now, so let's deal with this lube. There's a word in Arabic. This is why I say we're dealing with bird language. There's a word in Arabic. If we try to spell it in English, is lube, Lubb. Phonetically, it connects with this word, which is this, for this particular family that is helping to show the origin of the word love. And lube, we get the word desire, right? Well, the Arabic lube means core, kernel, or essence. So, where is the core? Is the core external or internal? Where is the kernel? Is it external or internal? Where is the essence? Is it external or internal? All of these are pointing towards something internal. So I wrote in my notes, I said, this is a clue that Venus, through association with love, deals with the inner world, the heart. This is also where wisdom is found. And then you always hear people in the spiritual communities and in the new age and about the heart chakra. The heart chakra. Why? Even the word core that's associated with lube, the word core literally means heart. Core becomes cardio, cardiologist, heart. The core is the heart. It's the true driving force of whatever the vessel is. It's the core that's really driving. So the desire associated with Venus, i.e., love, is a desire for an inner knowledge, an inner wisdom, an inner light, sire, an inner sun. Okay, all right. Where do I want to go next? Now, I hope if this is making sense, y'all give me a one if it's making sense. Let me make sure I'm not boring y'all to death. Y'all ain't fell asleep, or this is not like it's jumbled up. Y'all give me a one if this is making sense. Let's see. While y'all decide if y'all gonna hit that one, I want to erase this. Okay. Let's see here. Now let's look at okay, thank you, Pandora. Okay. So the next thing now, let's continue with this Venus and Aphrodite. We're gonna keep dissecting these names. Um Now, Aphrodite, what we got to look at now is remember, we're still dealing with bird language. Aph. So if it sounds, thank you, Akana. Thank you, Jaros. If it sounds like it, then it is it. That's bird language. Okay. So F gives us a F. When we are transliterating, F's and B's and P's and V's can be interchangeable. So the F can become a V. So Aphrodite can be AF and also AV. Now, the A, you all, I know you know this, A's and E's are interchangeable when we're transliterating tongues. So the A can become an E. And when we put that there, we have EV, EV, which is becoming Eve. Okay? Eve can be um Eve becomes in Hebrew Chava. Okay? Now, I want to stop and pause on something because I was looking for this before I got on here and I can't find the exact page. So Helena Blavatsky, I think it was in Secret Doctrine. She wrote something. She she wrote that Elohim is masculine and or Jehovah is feminine. But this is how these occultists work. They will say things and then not explain it. She never really fully um, explained the reasoning behind that. So I want to try to show it today. And if you got that book, you can look for it. Either it's in her Secret Doctrine or it's in Isis of it. I think it's in Secret Doctrine. But when we look at this, so look at Eve, which becomes Chava. This is why linguists always separate Hebrew from all other tongues. Because if you find that the connection between Hebrew and the Indo-European tongues, that's a major bridge. This is why this scholar named Joseph Yehuda put out a book in the early 80s called Hebrew is Greek. You can't get that book, a physical copy, for less than $5,000. And certain people bought up the copies, the remaining copies when it was out, and took the book out of print. Now you can get online PDF, but it's so marked up and the print is so faded, it's hard to even read it. But it shows that obviously there's a intentional separation between Hebrew and these other tongues. And this right here may demonstrate because when we take Eve and it becomes Chava, we find and we just look at this portion right here. Now I'm going to write this. Look at that. Now you got to understand vowels are interchangeable. When you look at Hebrew, Aramaic, Arabic, the metaneta, the consonants give you the hard body of a word. The vowels are can be interchangeable. The vowels give variation in meaning. But when you look at the basic consonant structure, look at what we got here. Hava, J, Hava, or Hova. So when Blavatsky says that Jehovah is feminine and Elohim is masculine, this may be the silver bullet or the smoking gun. That's what the smoking gun. When we just look at move her name through Hebrew. And we also know that Eve is referred to as Hawa. Jehovah. Now listen to this. This is a quote. This is a quote I pulled from one of my sources. It says, "At the Greek mysteries, the worshippers used to raise loud shouts of Heva or Eva." Now I'm gonna show you how they spelled it, because this is further connecting Eve with Jehovah. One spelling is this: the worshippers would holler Heva. The other spelling is or Eva. You see Eve and you see Chava. Then here's another account, same source. The natives of a tribe, now listen to this, listen to this, listen to this, because this should ping something in your mind on several levels. The natives of a tribe of North America. Let me repeat that again for dramatic effect. The natives of a tribe of North America, discovered by Sir John Ross in his voyage towards the North Pole, used to assemble at midday in a circle, and then the oldest man called out three times, Yahweh or Yahuwah or Yahweh, Yahweh or Yahweh. So this gives evidence of the same name venerated in the Hebrew pantheon being venerated here on the North American continent. And I mean, I got uh here's a source. Now something is mentioned to the same effect in America BC by Barry Fell. I can't remember if I highlighted it, where they, I'm sure people have heard, y'all have probably heard of the stelae they found in Arizona, uh, with the Hebrew writing. I didn't think about this before I got on here to think to look for what page this was on, but I know it's in here. He mentions it. It's also mentioned. Man, I want to find it now, and I don't think this. He's got a index in here. No, they don't. I don't see Tennessee Hebrew inscription. Tennessee 318. Where did let me see? It says this is just one of them. Let's see. Uh, in 1964, Dr. Henrietta Mertz recognized Phoenician letters in this inscription, and independently it was found by Dr. Joseph B. Mahan that the letters read Lamed, Yud, Hey, Va, Dalet in Hebrew, if the stone is inverted from the orientation adopted by Thomas. In 1972, Dr. Cyrus Gordon, a Hebrew scholar at Brandeis University, recognized that the letters belonged to Hebrew styles of the Roman period and was able to translate the text as a comet for the Jews. I wasn't even expecting that one. A comet for the Jews, a standard formula dating from the revolt of 125 AD. Okay, it's the book I'm quoting those first quotes from. I'll share it. The Language of Symbolism, 2-volume set. You want to have those in your possession. That's where I was quoting these quotes from about John Ross. So when you think about all the timing of everything that's happening in the world, that's what I'm saying. This is a momentous time. This is a very momentous time. But either way, we're seeing connection here through Venus's Roman or Greek namesake Aphrodite, how it's tying in the energy that is represented into something deeper. Okay. Now, okay, let's move on here. If you go to Genesis in your Bible, Genesis 2 and 11, you will see that there is a land mentioned. Let's go to it. Genesis 2:11. The name of the start at 10. And a river went out of Eden to water the garden, and from thence it was parted and became into four heads. The name of the first is Pison. That is it which compasseth the whole land of Havilah, where there is gold. Now that's what we're going to hold at. Havilah. Havilah. Let's look at that name, Havilah, where there is gold. Because, okay, because when we go and look at the Welsh tongue, they have a word for summer and it's have. And have means summer. Okay. Our words for haven, and this is coming from the same source I showed. Our word for haven and heaven originally implied summer, rest, safety. Summer, rest, safety. All right. Um, so there's something here about you gotta, I mean, this opens up a whole bunch of stuff. Gold associated with the sun, light, um, haven, heaven, which is the place everybody say they're trying to get to, at least from a religious standpoint. And if by chance all this ties back to Eve, what are we basing this on? We're basing it on this, that HAV. That's what we're tracing, that HAV, that same HAV is in Hava, you know, and that HAV can become HE. And we know the V is interchangeable with a W that becomes Hewa. It becomes Hawa. That's what we're doing, just to so we remain clear. The Elysian fields, also described as the land of Evan, so that this haven, there's the AV in there. Now we can apply that to Evan. The Elysian fields all those describe the land of Evan or Bacchus. Now, if you study the mysteries of Dionysus and Bacchus are interchangeable. The Elysian fields is the place where one is it is like the occult heaven, like when one has I can't think of the words I want to say, has properly overcome the material world. That's not what I want to use, but that the reward is the Elysian fields, and it is only attained through death. Okay. So this word Evan phonetically ties to haven, now heaven, Evan, heaven, Havala, Halwa, Shava. All right. Now, Evan, which is this Elysian fields, also phonetically, does it not sound like Evan, Evan, as in even? Now, this may sound like Jamal just going out on he just stretching you. So what? Here's the deal. Even if we had to associate one astrological sign that we would think lines up the closest to what we think the word even means. Y'all tell me in the chat, what astrological sign would you think just just first come up in your mind that you would think, what would have the closest association to what we think the word even means? Somebody tell me, what sign do you think would apply to even? That crazy. Libra, Libra, as in the balancing of the scales. Even, things balanced. Thank you, Pandora. Even. What I'm trying to show is my basic premise is I think these words, when you study the words, you find a story that's just been meandering and playing out. Even as tongues change, culture changes, I think there's some type of hidden story that tends to hang on and hide even through the changing tides of time. Now, Libra is ruled by Venus. Okay. Now, the point of me going through all of this, let me see if there's anything I left out for the backstory, anything else I wanted to cover. The point of me going through all of this is for me to give a background to lead up to actually talking about the actual astrology of right now. Let's see. Uh, okay. Yeah, I think I'm. Do I want to deal with that? Uh, okay. I got to give you one more little thing. This is just something extra. I got to give you this. I'm gonna leave this stuff about Eden so I don't forget where I wanted to go with it. Here's another little tidbit. In the story in Genesis, Eve is considered to be Adam's wife, according to the story, right? Well, though in Hebrew, word for wife is Isha. That would be an Aleph, a Sheen, and a Hey. That adds up to 306. Okay. 306 reduces to 36. If you take the the name Allah and spell it in Hebrew, you would get an Aleph, a Lamed, uh, and a Hey. What does that add up to? 36. Now, you ever hear people say, when they become a 33rd degree that they have to put their hand on the Quran or whatever. I don't, I'm not a Mason, but you hear all the little, what if that's part of the degrees that you learn about the same thing that Blavatsky was hinting at with the Jehovah is feminine and Elohim is masculine. Because here now you have the feminine over here, Issa, 36, and here's Allah over here, the masculine, the marriage of the two. Issa or Isha in Hebrew is the equivalent of the Arabic name for Jesus, Issa. So you see, all these things are hidden behind the veil, all hidden behind the veil. But either way, that's just an extra tidbit for further conversation at a later time. Um, uh, hold on. Hey, mom. No, you all right? No, no, no. We don't get it from we get it from Costco. Okay, okay, okay. All right, thank you. Bye bye. Okay. Where was I going? Um, I was gonna deal with this even. Boy, even. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Now, why did I lay all this out as a backdrop to discussing the energy of right now? And why did I conclude on the word even? Here's the question. Are um why are people bugging out? Are you seeing it where you are? Are you seeing the angst? No, and I know, well, that's kind of rhetorical because look at the news. I came on and I talked about I went and saw the movie Aries Tron and look at the things that have transpired since the movie came out. You got the shutdown is escalating more. They've made the announcement that there will be no SNAP benefits, Medicaid, and such November 1st. Um, what else? Um, I can't think. But that's big enough. So now you have people online saying, and you got to even wonder about that. You have people saying, well, I'm gonna go up and run up in Walmart and I'm gonna such and such and such. And then even at that, you gotta wonder if that's even real. Or if people are putting that, there you go, Rita. There you go. Uh the scales. You know, you gotta wonder if is it not expected that people are going to respond a certain way. when you threaten their food? And is it not by design? And are they not trying to encourage people to go on active food to help initiate the desired outcome that they want? It's called Hegelian dialectic, problem reaction solution. Now, one thing Santos Bonacci used to say is that Libra is when Aries is war. So that's when you have actual wars initiating Aries. But Libra is for financial war, right? And he talked about how, you know, when um, stock market crash, Libra, right? Um, Libra moving into Scorpio and other financial crises that have occurred around Libra season. Then there's a guy on TikTok. I don't know his name. I didn't get his name, but he said that the new capital is anger. The previous capital that these vampiric forces were feeding on was fear, but that a new deal was set to where the new capital, the new currency is anger. And I kept saying that this civil war is like everybody's thinking like, when Neptune was in Aries and Uranus was in Gemini, that's when the civil war and such. And remember, if you go back, I said it's just that energy, but it's a different type of way it's going to play out. But what's the rudimentary energy is anger, rage. You go, you get the we're not gonna take it. They're upset because their Christ figure got taken out, or so it seemed. Okay. Then you got the people who are looking for benefits. You also had people been losing jobs, especially people with government jobs. Um, there's a new disease that needs to be paid attention to. And you can Google it. The acronym is CRAB, CRAB. Okay. And just look at the acronym, CRAB. Um, so there's a lot of angst. And so it seems to be the antithesis. It seems more like Martian energy that we are confronting here at this new moon. So why are people ultimately bugging out? What makes Libra what makes Libra energy become angry, anxious, and display angst? It is a realization of imbalance. See, Libra is not we go with basic astrology, we think Libras are all passive and and two-faced and phony, and some of the negative things we can hear about Libra, or they can't make decisions, but Libra can be very aggressive and very angry. But what is the source of it? The source is something being reflected back to them. Aries taps into anger just because. Aries can just access aggression. Um, it can be provoked, but it can be without provocation. It's just assertive. It's a forward energy. Libra is the energy of reflection. So if what is being reflected back to me is something that shows imbalance, then that can create a Libran, a Martian angst expressed through Libra. And I kept dealing with it. See, I still got it up here. How Havilah was the land of gold, and the root is have, and how the Welsh, that was their word for summer. And then have becomes haven or heaven, and even. So if we just phonetically, we can't ignore that our word have. And when we think about having something, it is still falls under the dominion of Venus because Venus rules Taurus. And Taurus deals with what I have. So if people are in a position in Taurus, finances. So this angst is being driven and propelled through creating a sense of lack. And what are we seeing being reflected back to us in our own reality? And is what we see real? Venus is in a domicile, but Venus is in a separating opposition with Neptune. And that opposition, when it was there, it formed a kite. And that kite held the potential for something magical. It also held the potential for something of great delusion. So is what is being reflected back is the nature of our own delusional outlook and lack of realization of what's going on around us? Or has it been an opportunity to propel ourselves in spite of what we see around us? If by chance there has been an overabundance of being delusional, then there could be a sudden realization of how tilted the scales are, which can be causing a great deal of angst and anger and the negative side of selfishness. This energy is also highlighting the institution of relationship. As Venus, um, as the sun and moon sit at 28 degrees of Libra, they are foreshadowing Scorpio because they're in the last 2 degrees of the sign and they are preparing for Scorpio. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, that our new moons, I heard somebody say it, I gotta see it for myself, but the new moons for the rest of the year are supposed to fall in late degrees. Let's see, new moon in November, 28 of Scorpio. New moon in December, 26 of Sagittarius. New moon in January, 28 of Capricorn. New moon in February, and an eclipse, 28 of Aquarius. Wow. The new moon in March, 28 of Pisces, 27 of Aries. It's not until summer that the moon is in a lesser degree than 25 degrees. So there's a whole lot of finishing things up, culminating phases. There's a lot of distillation. We're getting the essence. There's that word essence again. We're getting the essence out of a previous cycle, and we are preparing to move rapidly into something that is maybe beyond our imagination. Now the question is, how is each of us preparing? And this ties into the role of Saturn in Aries. If you remember at the beginning of earlier in the year, I was saying Saturn rewards relative to the measure of discipline and commitment that you display. Now, I never want to come off as someone, I'm not one of these pull yourself up by your bootstraps type people. But at the same token, many people are stiff necked and ignore knowledge. It ain't fun. It ain't what I'm into right now. I don't want to da da da. But this phase we're in is a reminder that being stupid and dismissive comes back to bite you very quickly. The quality of your relationships is of the utmost importance. Venus, what relationship or relational seeds are you planting with this new moon in Libra? Are you being delusional? Are you in association with the right people? Why? Because here's the play. Here's the play. Santos said, financial warfare comes with Libra. I'm going to give you the whole play. This thing has already been thought out. In the UK, they had a protest against the digital ID, right? On Saturday. And we do know now that we live in a global world. Everything is connected, everything is everything. So the people who are fretting about not getting their benefits, they ain't got nothing to worry about. You know why? Because all they got to do is conform. And this is how it goes. You create pressure over here on one side, and you tap into the animalistic nature of people. You get them in pure survival mode, so that when you finally come over here with the, well, this is what's got to be done, they're going to be ready to do whatever. Beg to be taken care of. And what will be the deciding factor of whether you'll be taken care of is give us access to God. Give us full consent. That's what the road to Damascus is. 444, Damascus, 444. Beam in Hebrew is blood. 44, Ta, 400, 444. The Alpha and the Omega is in the blood sac. Give us access to the 444, the blood sac. And don't worry, don't even worry about those benefits because now we got something coming called universal basic income. You'll be able to get all your Pringles and all of your Red Baron pizzas. Just give us access so that we can help you. So if you don't choose that reality, then the quality of your relationship matters even more. Quality of membership matters even more. What's happening is the opportunity has been given to the people to be self-sufficient. It's never going to be said that way. It's never going to be presented that way. That's what's happening. This is the fork in the road. This is the choices coming up. But it's going to be hard to just be, I'm a lone wolf agent. I'm just out here, that's going to be difficult. You need some type of trusted, you got to have somebody you can trust. Just bottom line. And there's got to be a constitution that is formed, a code of conduct, behavior. As we ride out this transition, everybody's lamenting, and look at this. This is why I told you your vote matters. See, this thing was going to happen. This thing was going to happen regardless. It's been happening. I told my mama last night, Lyndon Johnson started the war on poverty in 1964. This is just a continuation. That was a dog whistle. That was a code. It was not a war on poverty. It was a war on poor people, on average people. Separate them from everything they know. Bring them into air-conditioned, LED, fluorescent lit buildings. And then 50 years later, when they need those things that they used to have, they will have no more knowledge of it. But they will have books where they can get knowledge to regain the information again, but they will have no desire to pick up a goddamn book to save their life. So your relationships, Venus, Libra, must come down to people who are equally yoked. Your leadership must be based on knowledge and integrity. And the leader is not a messiah. The leader is just the one who says, hey, this is what we need to do based on such and such and such. This is what freedom looks like. This is what freedom looks like. It's the sudden realization of just how responsible we are for our well-being. So this new moon gives us a reminder to plant fruitful seeds around relationship. And we have a P square that was in play with Jupiter at 24, Chiron at 24, Jupiter 24, Cancer, Chiron 24, Aries, the Sun and Moon 28 of Libra, which releases in Capricorn, which is the sign of government, the sign of professional identity, the sign of legacy. Now, the ruler of Capricorn, Saturn, is approaching a grand trine with Jupiter and Mars. Be about your father's business. I'm speaking metaphorically. Be about your father's business. Audit your daily routines. Audit who you are in association with. Seek structure in your life. We are in a massive transitional phase, but at the same time, magic is a real, real thing. Part of being a magician is the ability to drown out the outside world and to focus your mind on one thing. You must become a master of something. I can't stress this enough. Mastery is magical. You must master something. Now, this is how games are played. Right before they made the final announcement that hell, no more snap. They put out a thing on social media like um, Home Depot is giving out free classes on how to do HVAC and carpentry and da 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 da. If you ain't got nothing smoking right now, I would I would call a bluff, especially for men and for women. You got laid off, you got, can't find work. I wanna call a bluff because if you know how to measure, cut, assemble wood, you may have to build your own place to live. You learn how to pour, like we gotta think outside the box and be resourceful. And I know I'm going on a whatever. Fuck it, it don't matter. It needs to, I feel like it needs to be said. These are the times we're in. And people who don't want no knowledge, who don't want to listen, fuck them. You understand? Fuck them. There is no time to carry no adults who are liabilities. There is no time for nobody still trying to figure out, I'm still trying to get my life together. And, you know, like we all trying to get our shit together. But if you ain't figured out by now that 2 plus 2 equals 4, and you still somebody got to hold your hand, you are a liability. So find something and master that shit. Master it because mastery is magical. It will create a space for you to make it. There may come a time where you may have a gift or a skill, and somebody might have some chickens, and they may be trading you 5 dozens of eggs for the skill you got. I don't know how we exactly pull it together, but that is that's the times we in. And I just went off on a tangent, but I feel like we got that's what time it is. That's what time it is. We are very aware of the imbalance of the scales. We are very aware that there has been a malefic force that has been controlling the 3D. And the more aware we become of the true nature and history of this landmass, we can expect there to be more calamities. Nothing is just going to be turned over like, oh, okay, you got me. Oh, shucks. You're right. I am a piece of shit. Here you go. There's the key to your mama's house. You won. It's not how it's going to go. You know, I heard a comedian say, like, when I go on stage, if I'm bombing on stage, I'm taking everybody out with me. I'm going to make sure everybody's miserable. And that's kind of the state we're in. So audit your relationships. Be clear about what love is. Love is not infatuation. Love is not the whimsical delights of a teenager. Love is leisure. Love is learning. Love is desire. And the desire for what? For access to the core. What is the core? The heart chakra. The heart chakra is the way out. It's the gate. We must be spiritual adults. And that's all I got. Like I said, I got new readings on the site, health and wellness reading. I have the 2026 forecast reading. I'm doing my part as best I can to carry out what little gifts I've been given to make sure I'm not a pollutant to the environment, and I'm trying my best to be an asset and not a liability. And that's what's I try to keep that as in the forefront. There's a lot of suffering that comes along with trying to do things on the up and up. Um, there's a lot of delayed gratification, but at my core, I feel like your sincerity will be your protection, and it'll be your source of abundance. With that said, always stay down till you get up. And when you get up, stay down. and know the stars to know yourself. 720astrology.com. Holla at me. Peace.